Imagine making a decision to erase 80% of the world's population, crushing entire civilizations, children, women, and all of history under the feet of millions of titans tens of meters tall. Do you see this act as a heroic one? A hero sacrificing his humanity and soul to save his homeland? Or as a psychopathic act with zero humanity? For years, we watched Attack on Titan thinking it was simple. Good versus evil. Humans fighting to survive against mindless monsters. Eren represented us. Anger, helplessness, and a deep desire for revenge. But today, I will break everything you thought you knew about this hero. We will go deep into the darkest part of Eren Yeager's mind. The real question is not, when did Eren become a monster? But rather, did Eren change at all, or was the monster always inside him from the beginning? Think of a normal day. A 9-year-old child living inside walled cities, 80-meter-high walls that trap humanity. And trapped from all sides, just like any child in their world, playing, laughing, and living a normal life with his family. But suddenly, an event happens that changes his life. A girl is kidnapped right in front of his eyes. This child, who was supposed to tremble in the dark, be afraid, cry, and run to find his father, instead did something strange, something that makes you stop and rethink everything. What he did was calmly pick up a knife and in cold blood, killed the criminals to save the girl. But the issue isn't here. The real shock is that when he was asked why he did it, he didn't say he was scared, nor that he was defending himself. He didn't even lower his gaze. He looked his father straight in the eyes and said, without a trace of regret, "I didn't kill humans. They are monsters wearing human skin, and they must be exterminated." How can a child at that age have such terrifying calmness and the ability to strip others of their humanity? Here you realize that absolute violence was already rooted in Eren Yeager as part of his nature since childhood. But the writer is brilliant. He doesn't let you focus on this dark side, because immediately after, a year later, Eren, and we along with him, are struck by one of the greatest psychological traumas a child can experience. The day Wall Maria fell, Eren was just a young boy living a normal, quiet day. Suddenly, a terrifying lightning struck from the sky. The massive wall that had protected them all their lives collapsed. With it, every sense of safety was shattered. Titans invaded the city and people started running. Our protagonist ran as fast as he could toward his home, but what he saw there is something no normal human mind can comprehend. His mother was trapped under the rubble of a destroyed house. The child tried to lift the debris, but his small muscles couldn't help. There was nothing he could do. Absolute, real helplessness. Suddenly, a Titan approached. The very one everyone hates. A horrifying, smiling Titan reached out and grabbed his mother. At that exact moment, the innocent child died forever. He was stuck between trying to save his home and having no power to save his mother, Carla Yeager. Imagine the feeling of complete helplessness as you watch a smiling Titan slowly approach and pull your mother from the rubble. Eren watched his mother scream, her bones crushed, as she was eaten alive in front of his tear-filled, terrified eyes. A violent shock and hysterical helplessness erased any remaining empathy he could have had toward this cruel world. This wasn't just a moment of sadness. This moment became the ultimate justification. The devouring of his mother took Eren's violent nature, forged it, and directed it toward one clear goal. In that moment, he made his iconic vow. "I will destroy them all, every last one of them from the face of this world." As an audience, we cheered for Eren and shared in that deep hatred because the story gave us and him the perfect enemy. Ugly, mindless monsters with no mercy. We began to see Eren's anger and violence as justified, natural, even heroic, because it was directed at the right enemy. We applauded the monster inside Eren because that monster protected us and avenged us. But what happens inside Eren's mind when he starts to realize that his very existence is costing the lives of everyone around him? To understand the psychological collapse that led him to the end, we must feel the weight of the blood he carried on his shoulders. Eren was considered humanity's hope, but that hope survived through horrifying sacrifices. He watched Levi's squad, elite soldiers he trusted, being brutally slaughtered before his eyes by the female Titan. He chose to trust them instead of transforming and fighting. Then there was Hannes, who once saved him and Mikasa Ackerman during the fall of the wall. Hannes charged forward bravely to take revenge for Eren's mother, only to lose his life and be torn apart in front of Eren's broken eyes by the same smiling titan that had eaten his mother. The moment he laughed hysterically, laughing from a feeling of absolute helplessness and despair. Even Commander Erwin Smith lost his arm and sacrificed his life, along with young soldiers in a suicide charge, just to pave the way for humanity's victory and Eren's success. Every soldier who died and every body that fell was carved into Eren's mind. Eren is not a psychopath or emotionally numb. He was suffering and being crushed from within because all those sacrifices, those lives lost so we could live, placed a terrifying responsibility on his shoulders. Their sacrifices must not be in vain. He must free them. Here we reach the moment that changed everything, the moment the justification we built everything on was shattered. After years of hell and suffering, the Survey Corps finally reached their dream. They arrived at the end of the island and saw the ocean. Eren's friends were playing in the water, laughing and happy because they believed they had finally reached freedom. But Eren was not laughing. Eren stood still, his gaze cold and lifeless. He pointed toward the sea and said the terrifying sentence that changed the course of the story. "Beyond the sea, there are enemies. If we kill all our enemies there, will we finally be free?" Here, Eren lost the justification the story had given him. The enemy was no longer mindless monsters. It became humans like them. The outside world hated them and saw them as devils. Many believe Eren suddenly decided to destroy the world without reason, but psychologically and politically, the decision was far more complex and darker. Eren did not make his choice overnight. He first infiltrated Marley with the Survey Corps and lived among them, seeing that they were normal humans, some good, some evil. He also attended an international meeting, hoping for any chance of peace, but was shocked to discover that the entire world agreed on hating the Eldians and wanted to destroy Paradis Island. This leads to one of the greatest psychological scenes in anime history, the declaration of war speech between Eren Yeager and Reiner Braun. Reiner was brainwashed and believed the people of Paradis were devils who deserved extermination. But when he saw the truth, everything changed. Meanwhile, Eren, who had lived among Marleyans and seen both their kindness and cruelty, looked Reiner in the eyes and said, "You and I are the same, Reiner." Eren understood completely that there are no devils, only humans shaped by history and circumstances, yet he still chose annihilation. He declared war and launched the Liberio attack. Why? Because he faced only two options. There was no third choice. The first option was Zeke Yeager's plan, the euthanasia plan. Zeke believed, based on antinatalist philosophy, that existence itself is suffering, and it would be better if Eldians never reproduced so their race would peacefully disappear. From a neutral perspective, this was the less violent and more logical solution. The second option was Eren's choice. He rejected sacrificing his people's future and embraced a philosophy of affirming existence inspired by Nietzsche. This idea says humans must accept life and say yes to existence despite suffering. For Eren, simply existing was an absolute right. Being trapped and slowly erased was worse than death itself. When he realized peaceful solutions were impossible and the world was uniting to destroy his homeland and friends, he chose the terrifying option, the rumbling. Use of millions of titans to flatten every civilization, every city, every human outside that island. He chose to become the devil himself, to carry all that sin so that his friends and his homeland would not be destroyed. But was he happy with his decision? Here we reach the point where Eren lost most of the audience. Eren Yeager began hurting Mikasa Ackerman and Armin with cold, harsh words. People said he had changed, and that he was no longer the Eren they knew. But reflect on this carefully. This is not simple coldness or lack of emotion. His words were deliberately designed to push them away, so that later they would gain the strength to kill him and become heroes in the eyes of the world, preserving their lives. Eren was not indifferent. He was calculating, planning consciously so that they would hate him enough to stop him. He carried the role of the villain so they could survive. Before the rumbling began, Eren met a young child named Ramsey. He already knew the future, that this child would be crushed and killed under the feet of the Titans. In a shocking moment, Eren broke down. He held the child, cried, and apologized repeatedly, completely torn from within. A psychopath does not cry for his victims before killing them. Eren was a human crushed under the weight of fate and his own plan to protect his friends. This leads us to the final major scene between Eren and Armin inside the paths at the end of the anime. In the anime adaptation, this scene was made even more intense than the manga. Instead of standing on empty ground with Titan footprints, Eren and Armin Arlert stand in a sea of blood of all the innocent people Eren has killed. Covered in despair, Eren admits something terrifying. He did not do everything only to protect his friends. A part of him also wanted to erase the outside world completely. Why? Because when he learned that the outside world was full of humans who hated them, not a paradise like he once believed, his hope collapsed. He wanted to flatten everything. But Armin does not reject him. Instead, he shares the burden and says, "We did this together." Eren is not a mindless psychopath nor a pure hero. He is a tragic extremist, born with an intense and uncontrollable desire for freedom. He became a slave to that freedom itself. He destroyed the world because he could not accept living inside a cage. In the end, did Eren succeed? He saved his friends and gave them long lives, but the story does not end with peace. Even after years, conflict returns, and Paradise is eventually destroyed in war. The message is clear. Human nature does not change. Violence only creates more violence. Eren did not erase hatred. He only delayed it. Eren was never simply a monster. He was born from a world that created him that way.